Hi, this is Linda Ballantyne. I was the voice of Sailor Moon. You're listening to Beyond the Fandom, and if you stop listening to it, I shall punish you in the name of the moon!
All right, our guest on this episode is Linda Ballantyne, the voice of Sailor Moon. Linda, how are you doing?
Absolutely amazing, thank you.
Thank you for joining us. This is awesome. Glad to have you.
Happy to be here.
And joining me also is co-host AJ, who is kind of the guy who set this up for us. He's the one that reached out and made contact here.
Go team.
Oh, AJ, what am I going to do with you?
Go team. All right, well, I guess let's go ahead and jump into the questions. Not really a question, but I guess I want to have you introduce yourself for people who may not know you or may not know about your background.
Well, I'm Linda Ballantyne, and I am a voice actor from Canada, from Toronto, Canada. And I guess probably I'm most known for a little tiny show that came from Japan called Sailor Moon. And I was the voice of Sailor Moon, Serena.
Just that little show.
Yeah, just this little thing that not many people have heard of. And I've done a lot of other stuff as well along the way, but certainly that is my calling card right now. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. That's huge. Sailor Moon is a big part of many kids' lives and was a very impactful show. I know my cousin Sally was a huge fan of Sailor Moon, and I, being a little bit older, she was about the age group for it, and she would watch it a lot, so I caught it all the time when she was watching it. And it's Sailor Moon. That's all I gotta say.
I love Sally. I love her.
Oh, she's gonna love that.
So the recording process for Sailor Moon was extremely quick compared to most shows. Can you give us some behind-the-scenes info on how the scripting and recording was like for a typical Sailor Moon episode?
It was insane. That's the best way to describe it. Now, here's the very number one thing is we didn't have scripts. That's how fast they did this.
Oh, wow.
We had no scripts whatsoever. So we would go into the studio and they would project it up onto a screen. And above the screen, they would have words that would fly by a line. And whenever a word would fly by a line, you had to say that word as soon as it hit that line. Kind of like, karaoke,
Yeah,
like go along with the bouncing ball. The problem is all the lines that we had to read were all handwritten, like literally handwritten onto like a movie film. So somebody sat there and painstakingly wrote it all out so that it would exactly match the lip flaps of whatever our characters was doing. Whoever did it was insane, first of all.
Wow.
Like they must have gone blind watching it because it was just, there was, you know what all those characters are like. They're all talking at the same time sometimes, and they had every single character done almost perfectly, quite frankly. It was amazing. We had to do that. Not only did we not get the scripts, often we wouldn't even get to see the scene. First of all, they would just say, okay, ready to go? And be like, yeah, okay, let's do it, I guess. And they would just start playing this thing and you would just you'd be watching that screen like crazy going, okay, my character just walked in here. She's about to say something. And then you'd start talking and you'd just be going, I don't even know what it is I'm saying. I'm just sitting here reading the words and hoping that this is the right inflection that they need. And, sometimes of course you would be screaming something, say, you'd be like, what are you doing? Oh, and it wouldn't be that at all. Be like, oh, what are you doing? Oh no. So you'd have to start the whole thing again going, I don't even know what's happening. But not only that, we'd be throwing these words out and going through this as quickly as we possibly could. And then they'd stop and they'd say, okay, now we're going to fast forward to your next scene. And maybe your next scene wasn't for 10 more minutes in the show. I mean, I was usually pretty much throughout the whole thing. Right. But some of the other characters might have said something at the beginning and then something at the very end of the show. And they had no idea what happened during the entire show. And then they're just throwing these words out and they say, okay, great. Now we're going to go on to the next episode. And you'd be like, what the hell just happened? I don't even know.
No context at all.
But it wasn't just fast that way as well. Like they would literally record it and it would go to air the next day.
Oh, wow.
So you had to get it right. And if something went wrong, I remember Toby Proctor saying that, one time he had they missed one word or something like this. And they told him that he had to come in and re-record this one word. And he was like, really? And he took his time. He was so angry that he had to go back into the recording studio that he actually walked he walked in instead of taking his motorcycle. He's a rotten little, and they're waiting for him, like just biting on their nails, going, "We really need you in here, Toby." Yeah, I'll get there. He's such a little princess.
Such a little princess. I love it. So you were on the show for many seasons and many episodes, and the show was already established in Japan and had partly come out in the U.S. before you took over the part. How long did it take before you realized that Sailor Moon was actually something huge in the States and then Canada?
Well, I don't know that I ever realized how huge it was until many years later. I knew certainly that my nieces watched it and they loved it and they were watching it all the time. So it's sort of like, oh, good, I'm actually in a show that they're going to watch. This is like a miracle in itself. Because family's never impressed by what you do, ever. At least my family isn't. They never go, whoa, that's so amazing that you do that. They just go, yeah, really? That's good. We don't want to give you any kind of attention, Linda, because you'll just go. So, I remember when I got the part and just being so excited to be able to tell my nieces, guess what? I'm going to be Sailor Moon. And then I was like, oh God, they're used to Terry as Sailor Moon. Oh no, they're going to be merciless with me. They're going to kill me. They're going to ride me like there's no tomorrow. But they were pretty good. They were pretty good.
Were you aware when you got the part? Had you heard about Sailor Moon at all, or were you kind of aware?
Sure,
of it? So you knew what it was. What was your thought when you got the part, when you were stepping into that role?
Well, I was when I first got the part, I remember telling my husband and his buddy his buddy Tony were down in the basement. That's where our TV is. And they were watching TV and I got the call from my agent and I went down. I remember sitting on the stairs and looking down at my husband. And he said, "What's up?" And I said, "I just got Sailor Moon." And he said, "Oh, wow. Great. What part?" And I said, I got Sailor Moon. And he goes, "Wow, that's great, babe." And then his buddy Tony said, "What's that?" And I said, I just got the part of Sailor Moon in Sailor Moon. And he said, "You better be good because my kids watch." And that's when the penny dropped. That's when I went, oh my God, what have I done? Like, what am I doing? These shoes are huge. I am going to be like on the Flintstones. There were 2 Barney Rubbles. One I loved, one I hated. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be the other Barney Rubble. Oh no. And I was like, what am I going to do? This is oh my God. And I really actually for a little while wondered, do I want to even do this at all? Because and it was hard. It was really hard filling those shoes and trying to, learning how to make it my own. That was the hardest part because I wanted so desperately to sound just like Terry, but I don't sound like Terry. And it was really, it was a scary thing to go through. And I was fairly young in my career. I had done some animation, and quite a few voiceovers and stuff, but I really hadn't had this iconic part, at least not in my own mind. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know enough in those days to really sit down and go, I have to make this my own. I have to really just go, okay, Terry did hers and she can't do it anymore. So now I have to sit back and go, what do I want this character to be? And for so long, I was listening to them and they would say, higher. So they kept making me go, and that's why the first, I don't know how many bloody episodes, I was just screaming all the time and I just hated it. I hated it so much. I was like, what? I hate this. I hate this character. I hate the way it sounds. All I'm doing is screaming all the time. This is not what this character should be. So I had to really learn to sort of hone myself in and go, okay, whoa, stop. What do you want the character to be? Right. And I had to change that. And that's when I started really loving the character a lot more, just going, okay, now this is mine. Now this is my baby.
Yeah, definitely.
So it took a little bit, that's for sure.
I can imagine that was tough too, because having to go up that high in level in the octaves and everything probably hurt, and had to take some training to get your voice used to it.
Oh, I had no voice left. And I was also not just doing Sailor Moon. I was doing a lot of stuff then. I had a lot of different animated shows going on. I think I can't even remember how many animated shows I had going on, but I also did a lot of commercials as well. And I had nothing left, no vocal cords at all. Like just every day I'd wake up just going, I sound like an old man. This is ridiculous. And it was hard trying to warm your voice up and get in there and then start. And I knew that if I could do that, noise, then I'd be okay. Then I could get through. But there was often that I would come in going, oh God. And there's often that I still hear, I'll hear one of the episodes, me going, moon, cosmic. I often said to them too, I just said that in the last episode. Can't we just use it from the last episode and just put it on here? Like, can't you just lift it over? They're like, no, say it again, Linda. That's what we're paying you for.
Okay. I guess.
Whatever.
Professional acting side of things, just a quick question. When you destroy your voice like that and it's so worn and tired and you have to get ready for another scene, or even in your warm-ups after a long day the day before, do you have any advice to people who are getting into it that are facing those same challenges, like techniques or anything to maybe use? I know drinking water, obviously staying hydrated is a big one. I've heard tea.
Definitely drinking water the whole time. Tea is your best friend. Okay. Coffee is your worst enemy, especially if you drink coffee with milk in it. Don't have anything with milk. Just have something pure like tea. Tea with honey is great. Tea with lemon and honey is ideal. Okay. Another thing that's really great is eating like green apples are really good for your throat too. That helps clear things up. Somebody had also told me pineapple juice is another one that really helps your throat too. But I find tea a lot. Sometimes, if you get like a big buildup of like that phlegm where you're sort of talking, then you're like, sorry. A great thing for that is just gargling with salt water. That just gets rid of it.
Okay, that's interesting.
And I know another voice actor that I know also always has a little plate of salt beside him, and he'll just dip his finger in it and just put a little bit on his tongue, and that seems to just sort of clear everything away for him.
Those are all really good tips. I've never known about the salt, the honey tea and lime or lemon. I've heard. I wonder what's the deal with coffee? Is it something about the caffeine in it, or?
It's well, certainly coffee is a diuretic, so you're going to get rid of a lot of water in your body. There's that, but also just the milk in it. The milk really builds up a lot of phlegm for sure.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
What about warm-ups?
Warm-ups for me are more to calm my nerves. If I know that I've got something that I'm going to get nervous about, like if I've got a big audition or, just some show that I'm working maybe with a director that kind of unnerves me a little bit, then I'll do a really, really good warm-up, but it's almost more of a body warm-up for me because generally my voice is kind of ready to go. Like, let's do it. Let's go, Yep, good. Let's do it. But I will, I'll, as I'm driving into work, I'll, be doing some singing and just doing some of the, all that kind of stuff, moving up and down.
Yeah,
Please don't.
I was talking to Johnny Bosch a while back, and he said if he needs to get into a state like a more rugged, war-torn, older voice, it's a little damaged voice, he screams street names as he's driving to work.
Street names, that's a good idea.
It's a good idea.
God. Thanks, Johnny.
See, we're compiling all these little tips together.
Oh, I know. Well, there have been times as well where I've known that they're going to want more of that sort of gravelly, sort of scratch sound. Or even if I want a really crystal clear sound, sometimes I'll go out the night before.
Just have a good time.
Using my voice the night before and really just, if I'm in a bar and I'm just talking over the bar, the next day my voice is fantastic. Sounds great.
Awesome.
I know. So that's why I say, I got to go back to the bar, honey. I got to make my voice sound good.
Okay, I understand.
So when Sailor Moon was brought over for English dubbing, they had to change a lot of content due to censorship. Were you aware of the changes they made, and what are your thoughts on some of the changes they actually did go through with? I know with your season, when they brought you in, it wasn't as cut as the Deke was, but there was a big one.
Well, there was one, slightly huge one. That was a slightly huge one. That was very weird because they don't tell us, right? They just go, just say your words, and it's like, okay, here I go, I'm saying my words, and I'd be like, wait, they're cousins? Yes, Linda, they're cousins. Just say the words. And I'd be going on. Then all the little hearts would go by and the little faces would go together and they looked so like go, whoa. They're cousins. I don't look at my cousin like that. I can tell you that. And finally, and it was not the first day that this happened. Like, it would happen, and I'd go back in. I'd be like, really? Oh, we're going to do the cousins again? They go, okay, Linda, fine. They're lesbians in Japan, but here they're cousins. And I'm like, oh.
That's so much more acceptable.
What are you doing? Why are you doing this? And they just said, wow, the North American audiences weren't ready for it at the time. It's like, that's stupid. But it is what it is. And it was frustrating. But they also...
Fair, I think we were ready. We had Buffy, so...
Yes, I guess so. But they had to cut out a lot of stuff, too. Like, if a character was seen not wearing a helmet and he was riding a bike, they had to cut that out. Because they had to have a helmet on. You couldn't see any weapons. You couldn't see any flesh whatsoever, obviously. There was a lot of little things that you didn't even realize, and it was like, nope, you can't show it. So they cut so much of that out, especially for the first 2 seasons, that that's why they had the Sailor Moon Says at the beginning. That wasn't something that was originally scripted in it at all, but they had to cut so many little bits out that they had like a minute or 2 minutes at the beginning or end where they were just going, well, now we've got dead air. We've got to do something. So they Sailor Moon Says.
That's crazy. Wow, I didn't even know that. Just thinking about it, yeah.
I've got all the answers,
Yeah, I guess there were things back then we just weren't ready for as a country. Things that are silly, really silly, and just outright just stupid at this point now.
Or things that were okay in Japan, because also the show wasn't necessarily meant for, 10-year-old kids.
Yeah, it was marketed different here than it was over there.
Exactly. So they had to just sort of switch it all up and change it around. And
interesting.
Yeah.
Speaking of adult content, I guess, number 6.
Oh. What's number 6?
It says this one came from AJ. He's the one that brought this. So he actually showed this to me because it's been a long time since I've seen Sailor Moon. So when then I watched it, I couldn't stop laughing. So one of the more hilarious moments from Sailor Moon S would have been the scene where Serena gets drunk on juice, quotations. What was your reaction when you saw the part? Because it's not a script, but you were doing the vocal for the part when the words were popping up. But you're seeing the scene for the most part, right? And how much freedom did they give you in that scene?
They gave me a lot of freedom in that scene. And that was one of my favorite ones to ever do, because they let me sort of go, because she had to say all these French things and nothing made sense whatsoever, which is basically my French in general. Even though I am Canadian, it is our other language. And my kids have all gone through French immersion. So they always say, oh, Mom, don't speak French. Oh, my God. And I'm like, oui, la bibliothèque aussi, la cafétéria, ici, et la bureau. And they're just like, Mom, you're an idiot. So that's basically where that came from, is me just being itself and just going off on a rail. But I also loved the visual of her in that, because normally she had these legs that just didn't quit. Like, they just kept going forever. But in that one, she had these little stumpy, little wide legs. And I laughed so hard. I'm like, look at her. What have you... And I'd always take this personally, right? I'm like, what have you done to me? Like, you're destroying my body and doing this. Is this what I look like when I'm drunk? I just couldn't accept any of it, quite frankly. And then, of course, when she's hungover, it's even better, because then you get to throw up and stuff. And there's nothing better than that, than acting. Throwing upping.
It's probably one of the best scenes from Sailor Moon ever, too. So I love
good.
It.
I like.
So good.
Yeah, that's my favorite scene.
I actually had a fan one time, and it was so funny. He knew that scene off by heart. He had it completely memorized, but assumed that I had it memorized as well. And he said, okay, so what I want you to do is I'm going to play my tape recorder or his phone or whatever the hell he had. And he said, and you're going to say that scene. You're going to do the theory of relativity or whatever the hell it's called. And I was like, oh, the pudding of relativity. That's what it was. And I said, oh, you want me to do it? And he said, yes. And I said, wait, you want me to do all the words for it? And he said, yes. Like, what's wrong with you, woman? Can't you understand what I'm saying? I'm like, look, I don't know these words. He goes, I'll say them to you. I said, okay, you say. So he sat there going, the pudding of relativity. And I go, the pudding of relativity. And it was so funny. I wish that I had a recording of this, and he's out there somewhere. If you're listening to this, I want that recording, yes, whoever you are.
Send it to us. We will find you.
Especially because he's so deadpan when he does it. and I'm just going off, and it all came back to me. Like I remember doing it so clearly, and I knew exactly how to do all the words. Oh my God, it was fantastic. Where is he? I don't even remember what city it was in that I met him. Damn.
We must find him. And
I know.
What's interesting too, and what I love about this is, we talked to Vincent not too long ago as well for, Tuxedo Mask, and he had talked about some stories at conventions, and he had a fan that came up that was a he as well. And you just mentioned this guy here who's also a he. And I love the fact that this show speaks to many levels and many different people.
Oh, does it ever? And it helped so many different people, right?
Yes.
So I have so many guys that come over and go, okay, I'm just going to say it. I was a Sailor Moon fan. I'm like, yeah, you were. Yeah, you were. And he goes, I'm not gay. And I'm like, I don't even care. Because first of all, what red-blooded, non-gay guy wouldn't want to watch that show with all those hot chicks in it? Come on, let's get ready.
Bingo.
Exactly. I'm like, come on, let's get rid of it. And then they'll go, yeah, that's it. I'm like, yeah, that's it. But it's also a really great show. And they were all really strong women and they were fantastic. Ooh.
Really
but
is,
yeah,
too.
there's a lot of guys.
A lot of guys liked it. And, like you said, it's a very strong cast of women, which is amazing for the time period, too. This is something that we needed. And then crossing that bridge of bringing the animation over as well, because, Japanese animation was still growing in the United States of that style. So it's one of the ones that I guess kind of built the whole foundation for what we have today.
For sure. It was one of the first ones, for sure. And it bridged a gap between two nations that were at war with each other like 40 years earlier.
Right.
So it was an amazing bridge, and it was an amazing thing to reach out to another country and embrace what they were doing. I think that is one of the key things that makes it so special, for sure. And it definitely, it was one of the groundbreakers for bringing anime over. So
yeah, definitely.
It's a whole new genre.
Really, it really was. And again, we wouldn't be where we are today as far as the love of Japanese animation here in the United States and the Western side of the world if shows like Sailor Moon hadn't established that connection, like you said. And
that's also one of the reasons why I love so much that I got to do that role, because, no matter what happens from now on, that's always going to be pretty much the number one show. That's the first one. It's like, you can't take that away. It's awesome. I love it. When you look back at animation, Japanese animation in the early days, what are the shows you think of? You think of Dragon Ball, you think of Sailor Moon, you think of Trigun, things like that. So yep, exactly. And I love the people, they always come over and they say, well, I watched Dragon Ball Z, but my sister always watched Sailor Moon. So I was forced to watch it because it came on after or before or whatever it was. And I always stop them and go, wait, you watched Dragon Ball Z? And go, yeah. And I go, it's actually Dragon Ball Z because I'm Canadian. And I think it's Dragon Ball Z. I think you're saying it wrong.
You're saying it wrong.
I just wish it was actually easier to get a hold of the DVDs that the original cast were on, because now scalpers have them. They're over eBay. Some people are selling them for like $60 per DVD.
Oh, wow.
Listen, what you got to do is you got to come over to my house, because when I finished doing my episodes, they gave me like grocery bags full of the tapes, of the cassettes of every episode that I did.
Oh,
and they've been sitting in my garage, and my husband every now and then looks at me and goes, babe, isn't it time to get rid of these? I'm like, no, we can't get rid of these. But they've also got the full number line on the bottom and everything. Like they're really the originals.
It's the real deal. That is amazing.
I know, but mind you, we have Canadian winters here, right? So in my garage, they're hot in the summer, and then cold in the winter. I'll be amazed if they still work. But probably one day what I'll do is I'll end up auctioning it off or something like that for some sick kids or something like that.
That would be a great. And then if you autographed them and auctioned them, that would be an incredible thing.
Yeah, I probably will. I should find out whether they're any good still.
Yeah, if you could find a tape player.
And also I should find out, there was neighborhood kids that would borrow some. Like, can I take this? I'm like, yeah, bring it back.
Never got it back.
Probably some rotten kids.
They're probably on eBay right now. Hopefully not.
No, they probably destroyed them. Who knows? Some rotten neighborhood kids.
Okay, so you obviously played Serena in Sailor Moon Super S and Sailor Moon S. Was there a reason they didn't bring you back for the 3 movies? Because I know they were dubbing them at the same time as the series when you were working on them.
I think they probably did those before I started.
Oh, did they?
I don't even know. They didn't ever tell us whether we were doing movies or whether we were doing TV, that just episodes or anything like that. Like nobody knew. Susan Roman will tell you that. She would just, you just go in and you speak and then you leave.
Yeah.
You just go in and yell for a couple of hours and then you leave and you have no idea what it is you've done.
Oh, wow.
I know it's very, very anticlimactic, all this stuff that I'm telling you, but it was a very bizarre world. And we also had no idea, like, the longevity that this show would have. Like, we just figured it was some crazy show and it was like, okay, whatever, it's just a show. And you love the show that you're working on at the time. And then once it's done, and you sort of move on to the next project. And so that's why I love going to conventions now. I love going to cons because it brings it all back and I get my character back again, and it's revisited again.
You talked about the guy with the pudding of relativity and everything.
Yeah.
And recently the series hit its 20th anniversary. Do you have any more memories from conventions or meeting fans or anything in particular that stands out to you?
The fans are number one, the best in the entire universe. Like, they are so, so great. They're so funny. Some of them have no idea that they're so funny. Let's see. Oh, there's so many stories. Oh my God. Every single convention I go to, we sit there afterwards. We when we finished our day of signing and stuff like that and doing our panels, we'll go up to one of our hotel rooms. I'm usually with like Katie Griffin, who was Sailor Mars, and Susan Roman, who was Sailor Jupiter, and Toby who's there. And we'll all go into one room and, we'll have like a nice glass of wine, to sort of unwind at the end of the day. And we'll just start telling the stories. And it's so funny. We'll be like, oh my God, did you get the guy who, and, and like, I mean, I had, one time I'm just at the table and somebody just sort of walks by, this woman walks by and she sort of looks up and she had no idea who we were. And she looks up and sees a sign that says Sailor Moon. And she goes, Sailor. And I'm reading her lips. She's not that far away from me, but I'm reading her lips and she's going, Sailor Moon, what? And then she goes, the voice actors from, and then she looks right at me. And I smiled at her. I sort of shrugged my shoulders and go, yep, it's us. And then she just drops to her knees and starts bawling her eyes out. And I'm like, no, you don't. No crying. There's no crying in baseball. No. No. And she's bawling her eyes out. So I sort of laughed. And, a couple of years later, I'm at another convention and I'm telling this story. And this girl puts up her hand. She goes, excuse me, but I think that was me. In fact, it was. Like, oh my God, stalking me or something? What are you doing here, woman?
How many more autographs do you need?
Oh, they're the best fans. One of also my favorite ones also was when Toby went to the washroom one time and he was gone and this girl walks by. She goes, "Oh my God, Sailor Moon! Oh my God, I love Sailor Moon so much. You have no idea. I love everything about Sailor Moon." But now this woman was basically naked. Like, she had a costume that had pretty much nothing to it. A couple of pieces of blue duct tape around her waist. She had a dryer hose, a hose that you would attach to your dryer. That was around her neck, twisted sort of around her neck. And then over her nipples was 2 pieces of blue duct tape. That's what she was wearing. And I'm like, oh my God. You are naked right now. She goes, oh my God, you don't understand. I love Sailor Moon so much. Oh my God. And I said, Tuxedo Mask was my favorite. I said, well, he's actually here. He's just in the washroom right now. And she goes, oh my God, I've got to meet him. I said, oh, he's going to want to meet you. And she goes, oh yeah, he's going to love all this.
He's going to want to meet you.
And she totally points to her body like, yeah, he'll love this. And I'm like, oh yeah, he'll love that.
Don't go anywhere.
So Toby comes around the corner, little innocent Toby. Hey, what's up? And I'm like, hey, we've got a fan who's just dying to meet you. She loves Tuxedo Mask. And he's like, oh, well, where is she? And he turns around and there's this naked woman. And she's like, I want a hug. And he's like, oh, awkward. Okay. I'm married. Oh my goodness.
It's for the fans. That's awesome. I'm wondering too, being that, for so long that you did it and the show's been around for so long and the recording process was so intense, you didn't really get to see and get the context of the episodes. I'm assuming you went back and watched the series later, right? When you guys were done, or maybe at a later date, we actually get to see the episodes and everything together.
See, you assume things that are not necessarily correct.
I do assume. I make assumptions.
Not necessarily correct, I will tell you this. Okay. It's funny because I mean, I saw so much of the show as I'm recording it. So because I was in a lot of it,
Right. You got the majority of everything.
But I did go back and watch the end of, I think it was S. I guess it was S. And I just sat there going, oh my God. I'd forgotten all of this, and that's what's happening. Now I get it. Now I understand what it was that was going on. It was terrible. Like sitting there watching it going, if only they had told us what we were saying and what was actually happening and explained how everything worked, it would have been a very different show, really. Like I would have understood a lot more.
What was going on?
Yeah, but it's not like they gave us all the words. Anyways, they were the right words. But I think we got it. Anyways, I seem to think we got it somehow.
I think you guys did. I think it came out okay.
We did okay.
So, have you seen anything from the new rebooted series for Sailor Moon Crystal?
Not really. I've just seen some of the images, but I haven't sat down and watched it yet. And I do want to sit down and see a little bit of it. Katie and I keep saying that we're going to get together. We're going to get like a big bag of popcorn and, some glass of wine. We're going to sit there and watch some of it and probably cut it to pieces. Or
you got to do a laugh tracks version of it where you guys give your thoughts about it.
Katie and Linda react to
Sailor Moon. Should do that on Instagram. We should do like
that would be amazing.
In your
character voice, it would be awesome.
The live watching of it, and Katie and I are sitting there, and then we'll every now and then chime in with our characters' voices. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we will. That's a good idea.
That would be funny. What about anything else that Sailor Moon has done as far as projects? In 2003, they had a live action version. Did you see any of that?
No, I haven't seen any of that really. I mean, I've seen sort of little images and stuff, but I haven't watched it at all.
Oh, Linda, you got to see that. It's freaking hilarious. They have artists like a stuffed animal.
I keep waiting for the movie to come out though, because they really, they've got to do it. Come on, they do the Avengers and stuff. Let's get real. They'd lose their minds over this.
I think it'd be so cool. This nostalgia kick we're going through as far as rebooting series and stuff goes and making them live action, like the Power Rangers just got their live action reboot. Sailor Moon is probably ready. I think it's a good time to make a full live action movie.
So do I, especially with the technology they have today. It would just be unbelievable. Imagine the transformations. Oh my God. Yeah, it'd be amazing. Yeah. And it would be pretty funny also to see some of those villains that they had, those like the crazy nut guy whose head opens up. And nuts are popping out of his head. Like things like that. I go, come on. Let's see what that looks like in real life.
Right.
As you probably already know, the last season of Sailor Moon was actually not dubbed over here. When you were dubbing at the time with Super S, did you know there was another season, or when did you guys know that you weren't coming back?
Look, we didn't even know that the season had ended. Like we were just sort of, I remember when I found out that I was going to be doing SS, and we were at like a little wrap party, and it was like, why are we having this party? Oh, because this season's wrapped. Oh, and then at that wrap party, they announced that they were going to be doing SS. They said, okay, we've got the rights to do SS. And everybody was like, yay. And I remember going over to the producer and saying, so are you going to be using Terry then? I'm assuming you're going to be using Terry to do SS. And she looked at me and went, no, it's going to be you. And I said, really? And she goes, Linda, you're Sailor Moon now. So just... embrace it. And I was like, okay, all right then. Yeah, I'm embracing it. Okay. Yeah, but we had no idea. We didn't even know. I think that maybe we had heard that there was another one, but they said that they wouldn't be doing it or something like that. We really didn't know. And, they just all of a sudden stopped calling you. Like, why aren't you calling me to come in to do Sailor Moon this week? Because it's done. What do you mean it's done? What do you mean? I got to say goodbye? Dumb. I would love it though if they called back and said, you know what, we'd love to do it with you guys. I'd do it in a heartbeat.
I would much prefer it with you guys, to be honest.
So would I.
Well, that's actually, here's another subject like on the fan side of things. At Sailor Moon Stars, with it never coming over here, some fans actually took it upon themselves to fan dub it. Some in the Deke style, some uncut. What do you think, like, when it comes to that, with the fans actually going the extra mile, doing it not for a profit, but just so people could get that closure with that?
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love all that stuff they do. And that's one of the reasons why I also actually like the new, like that they did the new dub and that they did Crystal. Because I'm going, it just gives the fans something else. And they waited for so long to get something else. Like they've been waiting and waiting. It's like, oh, give it to them for goodness sakes. Come on. So that all that was just great. But I still would, I'd really like to. And I love I love any fan dub stuff that they do. I think some of it is absolutely hilarious. Some of it's ridiculous. Some of it's really good. And I'm like, holy cow, it's pretty good, man.
On the topic of fans, we were talking about my cousin Sally, who grew up watching Sailor Moon, is a big fan, super excited when she found out.
I still love Sally.
She had a question for you. She wants to know, how does it feel to be such an inspiration to young girls and boys who watch the series while growing up? People like her.
Sally, I love you even more now. I had no idea how much of an inspiration I had been. For me, for all of us doing the show, you walk in, you record the show, you have fun doing it. It's a blast. And then, that's the end of the day and you go home and you don't think too much about it. You sort of go, oh, that's a great show. And you know that people are watching and it's got a big fandom. You go, great, awesome. But when I started going to the conventions, and I started hearing people's stories about how much it meant to them. And at first, I didn't know how to take it. I didn't know what to do with it because it was really, really overwhelming. Right. Without a word of a lie, every single convention I've gone to, and I've gone to a lot of conventions, every single one of them, at some point, someone will come to me and say, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't be alive right now. And to take those, to hear that and think, when the first time I heard that, I went, oh my God, what do you mean? Like, are you that wrapped up in this world? But there were so many people that were so alienated in their lives, whether it was because maybe they were gay or maybe they lived in a small town and they just didn't fit in. There was something just didn't fit in their lives. Right. And this show was their outlet. This show was their escape. This show was the show that they went, one day I'm going to have friends, and these are the friends that I want. I want a friend that's going to be, funny and does this. I want one that's going to be the sort of, she's going to argue with me and do this. And they found those people, all these people that came to me and have said, and it's not one, it's not two, it's a great many people have come to me and said this. And it is so overwhelming and so wonderful at the same time. And at first I sort of threw it off as, well, that wasn't really me. That was the show. And then they were like, no, what you did. And, I've even had people specifically saying, no, your specific voice. Like, I like the other two. They were okay, but I loved the way you did it because you brought this humor into it. And I needed to laugh. And I needed to hear that stupid, crazy cry that you would do. And that made me smile. And I was like, oh my God. So it's really overwhelming. It's really humbling. And I will forever be grateful that I had this opportunity. And I'm not going to throw it away. I'm not going to just sort of, laugh it off or shrug it off and go, oh, well, it was just a show. I'm not doing that anymore at all. I take it seriously and I like to reach out to the fans because of that. I would never turn a fan away. That's for sure.
Oh, awesome. It's really amazing. And I'm sure there's plenty of shows that do that, but I know that it's got to be a special bond with Sailor Moon, like you said, because you have this variety of characters and their relationships and how much they care about each other, and strong female cast, an interesting dynamic with everybody, and I'm sure that just resonated deep with a lot of people.
Yeah, it really, really did, and it's an amazing show. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's characters on the show from all different types that you can relate to and you can connect with, and that kind of, like I said, that bond, that family environment of just being close friends, whether you're someone who's on the outside that doesn't fit in, or someone that doesn't really understand, their life around them and who they are, that they just connect with that. And it's amazing. It really is.
Yeah, and none of them were perfect. And I think that's the best part about the show, is the fact that every single one of them had their own flaws. Right. And it just made them so much more human and relatable.
Exactly, relatable. So outside of Sailor Moon, you've had quite a few other roles. Is there any other roles that you've done or voices for for shows or anything that you really enjoy, or one of your favorite characters you've played?
I love all the ones that I do, really. I do. They're all little snowflakes, all on their own. I did one show called Yin Yang Yo a while back, okay. And I was pretty much all the female villains in it. So every single week that I would go in to record, I wouldn't even necessarily know who I was going to be playing. They go, "Oh, today you're going to be the lie fairy," and I'd be like, "The lie fairy?" And she's like, "Yeah, she just cannot stand when people tells lies." And so then I had to make up what would this character sound like, and it was so much fun doing this because every single character was so different. I must have played about, I don't know, 20 or 30 different characters in the show. And they were all just so ludicrous. For me, I love any villain. Like, definitely my favorite character is Wicked from Cyber Chase.
Right.
And she's just this crazy, insane witch who just loves herself so much and cannot accept that she could ever be wrong. And so every episode, of course, she fails because she's the villain.
Yeah.
And when she's failing, she's like, just so, she just cannot accept the fact that, how can this happen to me? No. There's nothing better than falling on your face.
I think a lot of people love to play villains because there's a freedom behind it. It's usually something, like you said, just ludicrous and over the top and just so much fun that you can just get it out there.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing normal about villains ever. The quirkier they are, the better, man. They are so much fun to play. In fact, when I was doing Sailor Moon, I remember all the time, so many people would get to do multiple characters because there are so many little characters that were coming and going to the show. And I was always like, "Please, can I be a villain? Please, can I be a villain in this one?" And they'd be like, "Linda, you're Sailor Moon. You have enough lines." And I'm like, "I know, I just want to be a villain. Can I please?" No.
Like, just be happy with Sailor Moon. Do you have any upcoming projects you want us to be looking out for?
Oh, geez. This is the thing that I always forget. Okay, I have to remember what I'm doing right now. I am I know, God. I'm in a show called Top Wing. Okay. These little birds that are in these little tiny little kids that are in these little, I don't know, little flying machines or something like that. It's very fun. It's for little kids. It's very, very, very cute. Luna Around the World, where I'm an Australian stage manager in it, which is really fun. It's fun playing with Aussie. Also in Max and Ruby, we've got another season of Max and Ruby that's going right now.
Okay.
Oh, I got something else too, and I can't even think of what it is right now. There's another one. There's always something going on. I do a lot of commercials too. Lots and lots of commercials.
Well, that's the bread and butter right there. That's the paycheck.
Yeah.
So as far as keeping up to date with you and anything that's coming up down the road or, what's going on in the day of the life of Linda, where can fans find you on social media?
Oh, well, on Twitter and on Instagram, I'm at LA Ballantyne, BALLANTYNE. And then also you can look me up on Facebook because I've got two different Facebook profiles. One is that I sort of leave for family and friends, and then the other one is for fans and stuff. And so that one is just a picture of me, and it's Linda Ballantyne. And if you friend me on there, I'll friend you back. And especially on things like Twitter and stuff, I'll always answer questions, any questions anybody has. Love it.
So send your questions out, guys. If you got a question, because I know we have our list of things that we like to talk about, but we don't really put it out to the fans so much to participate. So if you have questions, make sure you send them out there.
Yep, I'm there. I'll answer them.
Which one do you think you're most active on?
That's a good question. Probably Twitter, I guess.
Twitter, okay. So Twitter's probably the best go-to for them. And why not follow all of them? But if you have questions, throw them up on Twitter.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any final closing thoughts for the fans?
Thank you for being there. That's the thing that I say to them. It's funny because they're always like, fans are always like, "Oh my God, you were so important in my life. You don't understand." And I think that what the fans don't understand is how important they were in my life, because I was really, I was just starting out really as a voice actor when I did Sailor Moon. And because there was such a huge love there, and, everybody reached out and they watched the shows, it helped my career. So we've both been there for each other. And that's why I also love meeting the fans, because it's like, it's time we met, because we've known each other for a very long time. We just never got to meet in person.
Awesome. Any conventions coming up you're going to?
I'm going to one in Connecticut.
Okay.
In July. And then I believe I'm going to Edmonton in September, Edmonton in Canada, in Alberta. But I may go to Australia. I haven't heard yet. Maybe.
That's a far one. That's awesome.
I know. It's a tough one too, because they're very blasé about it. They're sort of like, oh yeah, we'll get you out there. Don't worry about it. It's like, yeah, but could you let me know, because it's kind of far to go, and I kind of
plan.
I gotta plan a little bit, please.
That's a good one to roll a vacation into as well.
I know.
Well, thank you for coming on. This is awesome. This is so much fun talking to you.
I loved it. It was my pleasure. If you have any other questions or whatever, you don't even hesitate to ask.
Will do, and that goes for everybody else as well. Make sure you send your questions out and go follow on social media. Keep up the track on what's going on with Linda, and make sure you go check out her new shows and her shows that she's currently part of. And really, thank you so much.
And if you don't check out the shows, I shall punish you in the name of the moon. Just like that.
There's your warning.